Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Unbounded Growth. My name is Marc-Alain, and I'm your host. Back here after literally 2 months that we've been away. I was checking the calendar. Last time that we had an episode was on December 7th, and that episode was the Tyson Bonty. If you've not had a chance to check it out, don't hesitate. It's actually still on our YouTube, Facebook page, and in the near future here, we are going to have Tyson back to continue the conversation that we didn't finish. I think there are two crucial points that we did not get to cover in our very last interview. One of them was that how do you negotiate your salary? The second one was how do you manage work and family? You know, I was talking to a few friends who watched the episode. They were telling me that how do you still achieve the things that you want to achieve at work while you're not naturally driven? You know, some people want to, as soon as they get off college, they know they want to be a CEO of a company or something. Some other people simply want to have a paycheck to live by. And it's okay. It's okay to be either or. And we have time again to sit down with Tyson and talk through that. The second thing is that next week, there is an episode that Dr. Valerie and I recorded back in December where we talk about pain, purpose, and vision. We talk about how do you change your pain into your purpose, and how do you change your vision into your purpose and start pursuing that. It was a wonderful episode. We also recorded it last year. So there's a few things that have been happening. As a podcaster, you realize that my voice is my most important asset. And I think after the episode I recorded with Tyson and even the episode I recorded with Dr. Valerie, I was extremely sick in my voice, where the cold got me, and then I just got this weird cold, and it was going on and off. And every time we tried to record, my voice was not on point. And then as the year started, Aaron and I started struggling with some scheduling conflicts. That's why I'm recording solo today, because we've been really trying to find something that's most suitable that will work for both of us. But with him finishing up, I believe, his PhD this year, he's already working on his dissertation. Me having a little bit more free time on my hands, was a little bit more challenging to find something that was most suitable. So we decided to make a few changes, and this is the reason of this episode. This episode is just a pilot episode for the year 2024. I'm still thinking about 2023, but 2024. It's a pilot episode where I'll let you know about a few changes that we're making here on Unbounded Growth. Our team is growing. That's a good thing. Giving most of us a little bit more free time in our hands, so we can focus on other things and have other people also focus on different things on this platform. So a few changes that will be happening. We try to evaluate, we try to think about how we've been working for the last 2 years. Literally, I think Unbounded Growth will be 2 years this June. It's crazy how fast time's going by, but we wanted to make these changes earlier instead of making them 10 years later. You know, one of them is that we decided to start airing bi-weekly instead of weekly, like we've always doing. Like we've always done. Like the first season and the second season, we were airing mostly weekly, but we are switching that a little bit. We're going to a bi-weekly schedule. The reason for the change, multiple reasons. First off, is just the time that it takes us to like edit and work on the episode and all that. The time it takes to record as well. But also the time it takes for the people that listen to us to consume our podcast. We believe that there is great content on this podcast, but we also believe that it's not the only podcast that has great content. So we want you to consume the content from this podcast, at the same time consume content from other podcasts as well, giving you enough time to reflect, to think about the things that we are talking about here, but also giving us enough time to always come up with better content and good delivery as well. So that's the first change that we are making. That doesn't mean that we won't be close to you every single week like we've always been, right? This is what will be happening. Instead of hearing every week, we'll be hearing every 2 weeks. But in the weeks off, and every single week, even when we hear an episode or we don't hear an episode, there are two things that we are going back to. We started last year, and then I was slacked off a little bit, as I was saying, because of sicknesses and a lot of scheduled conflicts. What we'll be doing this year now is that we continue with our blogs. We now have 4 bloggers, which leads me to a little bit of a next point to introduce some of the team members, the new team members of Unbounded Growth. One of them, you've met him. His name is Zeph. He is my young brother and was here on the podcast a few months ago, actually. Then Adam, of course, Adam has always been part of this, and he will be the second blogger. There'll be Joss. I don't think you've met Joss, but if you go on our website and you look under the authors and podcasters, you will see Joss bio. But Joss is an amazing guy, and I believe that you'll enjoy. I think one of the fewest blogs that we have out there on our website, one of them is actually from him, where he talks about discipline. And then, of course, myself, I'll also be a blogger. So you have a blog every single week. Some of them will be short, some of them will be long, depends on the subject. But then we continue to hear our episode as we have done in the last, ever since we started with the podcast. So that's the second change that we are making. The third change that we are also making is that you'll be seeing a lot of more solo episodes. Adam will be working on some episode. I'll be working on some other episode. The reason, again, as I was explaining before, is the timing constraints that we are having, scheduling and all that. And we want to make sure we continue to deliver. So you'll be having more episodes soloed instead of having episode like where Adam and I are both co-hosting. And whenever time permits and whatever time allows us to be together, of course, it always be our pleasure to sit together again with Adam and just record like we love to do. We love to do. Adam is a very energetic and dynamic person that I really like to work with. And the other change, maybe last but not least, is that this year we finally have most of the equipment that we needed to be hosting people on the podcast. As you know, it takes a little bit more effort to have someone on the podcast than just recording solo, where Adam and I are sitting right in front of our computer. When you have a guest, there is, location and things of that nature that we have to put into consideration. So we figured out a few stuff that are going to help us this year to be hosting more guests on the podcast. Of course, we try as well to have as many as we possibly can. The goal is to possibly have one every month. If that's not possible, it will probably be one every 2 months, but you will see more guests. Again, the regular schedule will be bi-weekly. That's what we try at least to stick to. But every now and then, some months we have 3 episodes instead of 2. Now, another change that I was wanting to talk about, which I was actually forgetting, is that now that we have a little bit more people on the podcast, on our team, that are helping us with both editing, social media, and as well as the blog and all that, we are going to start launching our French series of podcasts. I know a lot of people, we've talked to a lot of people that have been, those who do not fluently speak or understand English, have been asking us to come with the French portion. Initially, from the get-go, when we started this podcast, the goal has always been to be bilingual. But again, because of time constraints and everything that was coming in the way, we've never been able to do it. But this year, we are finally going to be able to do it. So our regular schedule again will be every 2 weeks, but on the weeks where we're not recording, at least when we're not having the English podcast, we may have some French podcasts, but the blogs will still be going out every single week. We not finished this part of announcement and changes without talking about something that has been bugging me, bugging us, or bugging Adam and I for a while, Josh, Zeph, and everybody that works with us here, Sylvain, that will be working behind the cameras, is the situation in Eastern Congo. I know a lot of people may not know about this. A lot of people have actually never heard anything about what's going on in Eastern Congo. At the AFCON, the Congolese team tried to voice what was really happening in Goma. I personally I grew up in Goma. I was born in central Congo, but I lived in Goma I moved to Goma when I was 3 months old. And I didn't leave until I was 18, 19 before, migrating to the United States. The war started back in 1996. And for those who are more historical and do know a little bit more, it actually started in 1994 with the genocide in Rwanda that sent a lot of refugees to the eastern part of Congo. And ever since, the region has never been stable. The statistics today and the numbers that are out there, which cannot fully be trusted because I don't think anybody was tracking. But the estimation right now is more than 6 million people have lost their lives in Congo. It's okay to talk about it. Of course, a lot of medias will not. It doesn't fit well their interest or for their particular reason, and I'm not mad at them for not doing that. But we want to talk about that. We want not only to raise awareness about what's going on in Eastern Congo, because raising awareness is one thing, but what do we do about it? I'm not a politician, and I don't think I want to be one. I don't think I want to run for power or anything of that nature. Can we just stop the war? Wake up one morning and say this is enough? We stop it? Maybe not. It's been going on for 30 years now. How do we stop it? My question is not to bring your attention on how do we stop this war, because you may not have the power to do it from where you're standing. But I'd rather bring your attention to the people and the families that has been displaced and that has been killed, children that have lost their parents and have no one else to turn to because of this war. And these are the people that I want to bring your attention to. These kids, who we always say that kids are the future of tomorrow. How can they be the future of tomorrow if they die today of hunger? We are working here on Unbounded Growth with an organization in Goma that has been helping families and kids that have been greatly affected by this war. And we are taking donations. You will see the link to the donations in the description of this episode. And we also bring up an article that gives a little bit of an understanding about what's going on in Eastern Congo, if you're not aware of it. If you're aware of what's going on in Eastern Congo, I think this will be much easier for you. But if you're not aware, we'd like just to raise this awareness, but also call you for action. Ask you to help us do something. Ask you to help us in this fight to at the very least, help a few families, a few children that have lost their parents, this camp of refugees where children right now are dying because they don't have food. That's just why they're dying. They just don't have food. And it's very sad that war is still killing people, but then people are starting to die of anger and things like that. So there is a donation link on our episode, on the description of this episode, if you want to learn more about Congo, or you can call us directly. I was in Goma. I was 5 years old when all this started. I remember clearly when it started, and I was talking to Zef, my brother, last week, and I was reminding him about how he started, how we were sitting in the our living room, and mom had to rush us out of the living room to put us in this corridor where even if a bomb blasted, it won't go through the walls and things like that. And it was just crazy to think that as a 5 years old, I still have those images. And almost 30 years later, we are still talking about the same conflict. We are still talking about what's going on in Eastern Congo. Even if everybody has forgotten, we cannot forget. And we got to do something about it. So that's one thing that we'll be doing as well. We'll be taking donations not only for the children that we've been helping go to school, but also particularly for these kids that are living in this refugees camp, refugees in their own country, which is crazy to think about. But at least we do something about it. Not just talk about it, but also do something about it. All right. So we'll repeat again. Our episode will be airing every 2 weeks, but there's an exception, and that's why I'm repeating it. The exception is next week. The episode that we recorded with Dr. Valerie that was supposed to air this week And we couldn't hear because, of course, Adam and I hadn't recorded the pilot episode until we figured out that we couldn't do it, and we decided to do it solo again. Now, since the pilot episode is out, next week we have the episode with Dr. Valerie that we hear, and she's amazing. She's amazing. She's a dentist, and she's also an immigrant, which was interesting because I just realized as we were recording that she was the first immigrant guest that we had on the podcast. And a lot of guests that we've been promising you, like Hussein Abdullah, Mr. Hussein Abdullah, the real estate investor who retired at 38 after having invested enough in real estate. We are definitely having him this year, and a lot more people that are reserved to you. So I look forward to having all these guests and to being here together with you. So before I finish for this episode, I figured that I know we owe you something. The battlefield, winning the war in your mind. I know we're not done with this book yet. Yes, we took a break after Adam heard the last episode. I think the second to last episode last year, where he talked about chapter 7 and 8. But we go back to this. We not finished this season without going back to this book. And we talk more and finish up the whole book and tell you some more other books that we be reviewing this year. I'm excited. There is a book that we'll be reviewing is How to Become a Person of Influence, how to build your leadership through relationships. We talked about that by John Maxwell. We also talk about the Four Seasons by Jim Rohn. And then there's another book by Jay Paco. Hopefully we can have Jay Paco here. He talks about in his book about how do you overcome the things that you are not able to overcome by yourself. You say that, oh yes, I have these wonderful resolutions this year, and then at the end of the year you haven't done anything. How do you go about overcoming your weaknesses? How do you go about overcoming the things that are stopping you from doing the things that you want to do? I think Adam will be doing the review of that book. We also be part of it as time will allow. And then if we have a chance or an opportunity to get J Pac on the podcast, we definitely get him here. He's an amazing preacher, also an amazing public speaker and writer. You definitely love the book. I'll see if I can get the correct title, because I know right now I'm definitely misquoting that title. The other thing we talk about again this year is still leadership and personal development, but we also talk about communication, particularly how do you go about improving your communication? How can you convey your message such as people connect to your vision, right? Whether you're a leader, whether you're a parent, whether you're a spouse, whatever you are in life, whether you're a child, how do you go about communicating what you have in mind so people buy into the vision or whatever you're trying to convey? It's a little bit it has to do with sales to some extent. I read, and I didn't read. I saw this little ad about masterclass on YouTube, and this gentleman, he was teaching about sales. He said everything in life is sale. It doesn't matter whether he said everything in life is sale, and then something else he said everything in life is negotiation. So we're going to learn how do you sell your ideas through communication, not just with the purpose of getting the other people to buy into your idea, but how do you help people to buy into you? Because once people have bought into you, it becomes much easier for them to buy into your idea. All right, so talking about the things that you want to accomplish, but you do not know how to accomplish them. One of the quotes I read that I thought was funny, but also had a lot of truth in it, was about year resolution. It says, my year resolution this year is to accomplish what I resolved to accomplish last year and that I had planned to accomplish the year before. So the person started with their year resolution. I'll give an example. He started with their year resolution in 2021. Promised himself that he'll accomplish them in 2022 and did nothing about them until 2023. And now in 2024, the person is still trying to work on the 2021 year resolution. Now, why is it that some of our year resolutions do fail? A few reasons that I wrote down here. The first one is because we don't have any. Zig Ziglar used to say that it's much easier to hit a target that you don't see than it is to hit a target that you don't have. How are you going to accomplish something that you do not have? How are you going to accomplish and say, okay, this year I want to accomplish A, B, C, D, and you've never taken time to write it down? Another quote that I like another thing I like to say is that when you don't know where you're going, every place you get looks like the final destination. If I take you on a trip today, if you've never been to Congo, and I take you on a trip today, if you've never been to DRC and I take you on a trip today, as soon as we land somewhere in Senegal, if I just blindfold you and I don't tell you that we're in Senegal, you hear people speaking French and you go like, oh, this is Congo. No, it's not. And it's the same way sometimes when you do not have a goal, you don't have a vision, you don't really know what you're trying to accomplish this year or whatever year, whether it's 2025, whether it's 2026. Everything you accomplish will look like the final thing that you had to accomplish. But when you have a goal in mind, it becomes much easier and you are more focused on what you're doing. So the first reason I personally believe why people do not accomplish their year resolutions is because they don't have any. The second reason, I also think that people do not accomplish their year resolution because they can't commit to it. Sometimes when we plan our year resolution, you go to a party and they say year resolution party. You sit down there, you get too excited, and then you start writing all the adrenaline running in your mind. Everybody's writing their goals. Everybody is establishing a vision board. You get into the mood. You want to do it. You want to accomplish it. And then you write a bunch of things down, like 12 things or 15 things that you say, 24, this is what I'm going to do. And as soon as January 2nd hit, you never look back at that list until December 31st again. Now, how are you going to accomplish something if you're not committed to it? And I personally believe that a lot of people do not accomplish their year resolution because they don't know what their resolutions are. You've written too many things and you're trying to run in too many directions, and then you never have time to look back at them, that it becomes difficult for you to even remember what you resolved to do. Now, how are you going to accomplish something you cannot remember you resolved to do? And that's why I encourage you to be not only committed to your year resolutions, but to do something about them. Now, being committed to your year resolution, it can be something as simple as reviewing them every day. Just every single morning, take your year's resolution, put them in front of your face, and read them out loud. And you'll be reminding your brain of the things that you have resolved to do. And that's very crucial and that's very important. The other reason why I think people fail to accomplish their year resolutions is because they don't take any action toward them. Listen, it's all good and it's all beautiful when you've written everything down that every day I'll do 5 push-ups, or every day I'll walk for at least half an hour, or I'll read at least a page of a book. But if you don't sit down or get down to do at least 1 push-up, if you don't sit down to start reading the book, and if you don't even have a list of books that you're going to read, how are you going to accomplish them? Let me just talk about book reading, for example. I don't think there is, maybe there is, like I'm speaking just from my own perspective. I don't think there's a lot of activities in life that are as challenging and as fulfilling as reading books. I don't think so. I personally wasn't a reader. I was not born a reader. Some kids, they're 4 years old, 3 years old, and you see them with books. They love books. My niece, I have a niece, her name is Doriana. Doriana loves reading. When I look at her, sometimes I get jealous. I'm like, I wish I had started or I'd loved reading when I was 8 years old or 10 years old. I didn't start reading until I was like 16 maybe. And when I was 16 years old, I actually read just to impress people. I was like, people will see me with a book and I wear glasses. I've been wearing glasses for a minute, and people will see me with a book, wearing glasses, and they think, man, Mark is smart. And to me, I felt like I love that compliment. And it's not until like I was 18 or something that I started becoming a little bit more serious about reading books. And after I graduated from high school and I was learning English, that's when I even became more serious about reading books. Now, why am I telling you all this? The reason why I'm telling you all this is that you don't have to be born a reader to enjoy reading. No. It all starts with a desire to want to do it, which I believe you do, because if you've written your resolution that this year you're reading at least 12 books, which just equates to 1 book a month, and I believe you are capable, you are intelligent enough and capable enough to do it. The second thing is that make a list of those books that you want to read this year. What are the books that you want to read this year? I know some books I'm reading them, like Winning the War in Your Mind. I reread this book, I think, for the second time last year. Deep Work. I think this is also one of the books that I may be rereading this year. And then I have this other book by Francis Chan, which I started reading 2 years ago, maybe 3, and I never finished. And all these books are now part of my library this year. Now, it's not enough to have a library. I also have dates on these books. Every beginning of the week when I start reviewing, because I start reviewing the list of books that I'm going to read. And as you know, I've been trying to read a book at least every week, which I've already fallen behind, because the 4th week of January, I missed on a few readings, so pushed me behind. But the first 3 weeks of January, I was capable of reading a book every week. The ability is not a problem. You're capable to do it. But do you give yourself enough time? And do you give yourself enough discipline to do it? Right. So what I've done this year, and I think I did it in previous years, but not to the extent and the details in which I've done it this year. I have a whole list. There's this mobile application. You've probably been seeing me staring at my phone every single minute here, is because I didn't print my notes, and I like to talk with my notes. I just have them on my phone because I use this application. It's called Notion. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know if it has any other name, but it's called Notion. There's a big old N that's like a Nintendo thing, but it's Notion. And Notion is just one of those notebooks which, you can access from your computer, you can access from your phone, you can access literally from any device that you have. And I like it because, I start typing on my computer, and as you know, I've been, maybe I haven't talked about it, but I've been writing a book. So I start sometime typing on my computer, and if like I'm in a weight room or I'm at a bank or something, and an idea pops in my head, even about the podcast, I'll just literally put up my phone and start typing notes. And I know that because I know that when I get home, I can continue to work on that idea. Because the thing with ideas is that when you don't capture them, they seem to escape your mind. I've never understood why. But if an idea hits your mind and you don't take enough time to capture that idea in writing, sometimes by the time you get home, the idea has already evaded your mind. And sometimes it's just in your brain for a lapse of a second. It's the same thing with dreams. If you don't have the habit of writing your dreams first thing in the morning, by the time it's 10 a.m., you've probably forgotten a lot of details that were probably very crucial in those dreams. Now, I don't know what you believe. I sincerely and honestly believe that sometimes God speaks to us through dreams. Again, I'm a Christian. So looking at the story of Pharaoh, Joseph, looking at the story of Joseph, the father of Jesus, you see evidence everywhere how God can speak to us through dreams. So sometimes when you don't have the habit of capturing your dreams, your ideas, a notebook and things like that, a lot of things can seem to evade you. So my suggestion is not only you write down the list of all the books that you're going to read, but you also add dates to them, right? Let's say, for example, I'm taking this example by Francis Chan. It says Until Unity. This book has, just opening up the first page, I know it has about 217 pages, but the whole reading is like 207 pages. Now, it got 8 chapters, an introduction and a conclusion. That makes it roughly 10 chapters, right? You can start from February 1st to February 28th. You divide 28 by, let's say, 200 by 28. Am I that good at mental math? I do not think so. So let me pull up my calculator here. I'll do 207 divided by 28. That simply means that every single day you have to read 7 pages. And if I divide 7 pages by, let's say, by 24, right? By 24, maybe that's not the right math, but I wanted to divide it by 24 hours. That means that every hour, if you read 1 page, by the end of the day, you are done with 7 pages. And I'm talking about your day has 24 hours, but I'm only telling you that if you only read 1 page every hour, which will take you less than 10 minutes, but now you have a plan. You not only have a vision or a year resolution, but you also have a plan for this book. And you can even, have some notes in there where you can mark them and say, okay, from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., this is how much I want to read. From 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., this is how much I want to read. From 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. or 12 p.m., this is how much I want to read. And now you are forcing your brain to take action. Because when you start writing down whatever idea and thought you have in your mind, becomes much clearer when you put it in writing. That's why one of my best quotes or one of my best scriptures in the Bible actually is Habakkuk 2, I think. I want to say, I don't want to misquote it, but I think it's Habakkuk 3:1 or 2:1, something like that, 3:1 I believe, where it says that, write your vision down. I think it's Habakkuk 3:2. It says, write your vision down and make it plain. Wait, for it shall surely come to pass. There's something about writing. There is something about writing. So stop processing all your ideas in your mind. Stop processing all your dreams in your mind. Stop processing everything that you're planning to do this year in your mind. Write it down. Not only write it down, make it plain. Make it plain in a place where you can daily review it. Make it plain that when you wake up in the morning and you wonder what's going on this year, you can pull back your notebook and start tracking your progress. And it's very encouraging every time you check something off, your progress of the year. Let's say you have to read 10 books or 12 books this year. And by the end of January 31st, you've completed your first book and you mark that off your calendar, you mark that off your journal or whatever you use to capture your thoughts and idea. It feels so great. Let's say your goal is to do 15 push-ups every day, and 15 push-ups is not a lot. Even 30 push-ups is not a lot. If you just say, okay, in the morning when I wake up, I'll do 10 push-ups. During lunchtime, I'll do 10 push-ups. And at the end of the day, I'll do 10 push-ups. And every day you get to mark that I got this done. It's amazing. And I think I talked about this book. It's called Make Your Bed. It's written by an admiral. I'm forgetting his name on top of my head right now, but it says that the first thing that they teach them in the Navy is how to make their bed. And it makes a very interesting observation. He said, when you make your bed every morning, you've accomplished at least one thing that day. And it's the same way that if you decide to read and you wake up, instead of turning to your phone, the first thing you do is to open your iPad, your tablet, or whatever you have, or your book. I love physical books, and I think I'm definitely going back to reading more physical books. And when you read that first page and you know for sure you've accomplished the first thing of the day, or if your goal is to do the push-up exercises just to challenge yourself, before you get into the shower, before you do anything, you just get down and get those 5 push-ups down. It gives you motivation. It activates a lot of chemicals in your brain that will actually help you accomplish your dream. So that's a few things that I wanted to talk about. The other danger as well when we talk about year resolution is a lot of times, because we are under the rush of adrenaline when we're working on our year resolution, we tend to make too many big and grandiose year resolution. It's great to do that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but you'll feel bad if by the end of the year you haven't even accomplished half of that list. This is my approach, or this is what I believe that has helped me at least. I start planning my year in October. That doesn't mean that if it's February for you, you cannot start planning. Even if you haven't planned anything, that's okay. You don't have to have them ready by January 1st. It's not a must, right? It's ideal, but it's not a must. And the reason why I started planning my years in October is so that I get to have the whole month of November and December to review what I've written down, right? And some of my year resolution carry from one year to another. It's not just a resolution for a year. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for instance, that you're trying to build a house, right? You're trying to build a house by yourself from scratch. You have zero experience. You've never built a house and you've never seen it done. Now, trying to do that in a year, it's possible. You can do that. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's very possible. The other approach can also be, I want to learn this year. My goal is to learn how to build a sturdy foundation. And this is what I'm going to focus on. And next year, I'm going to start learning how to build walls. And in 2 years, I'll learn how to put on a roof. Yes, that's maybe not very realistic. And it's a very long time to build a house. I've seen houses being built for that long. But at least you have this one goal that you're trying to accomplish. And this year in particular, you are only focusing on this portion of the goal. That leads me to say that it's okay to have a year resolution that carries from one year to another. Something we posted on our Instagram page and Facebook a few days ago is that don't be afraid to move slowly. It's a Chinese proverb. It says, don't be afraid to move slowly. Only be afraid to stand still. As long as you are making progress, I don't care if you have 1,000 classes on Udemy and you are only watching 10 minutes every single day. Or I don't care if you're trying to get to build up to do 100 push-ups a day and right now you can only do 2 push-ups a day. I'd rather you continue to make those 2 push-ups every single day than to try to do 100 push-ups on Monday and stay off for the rest of the week. It won't help you. So, going back to what I was saying, when you have too many year resolutions, sometimes they look scary and you're not sure if you're going to accomplish them. Break it down. Not only break down those year resolutions, but also reduce them, right? So this is how I do it, right? In October, I write my goals, my vision, or whatever I want to do in the next year. Then in November, I review it. I review it to mark off the things that I do not believe are a priority for my life or for my family. In December, I have a more condensed list. In January, I still go through the list to have adjustment. Even right now, I'm still going through my goals and the vision that I have for this year and the things that I want to accomplish. And I keep on marking up things that are not of the highest priority. Because I believe that once you tackle things that are most important and of the highest priority, some of this other stuff can be solved simply by solving the first thing, right? So, for instance, if the big thing that you need to accomplish is like Brian Tracy talked about in his book, Eat the Frog. Once you've accomplished and eaten that big task of the day that keeps on bugging your mind and doesn't help you to focus on other things, it becomes much easier to refocus your attention and your energy to something else. But when you have, for example, you say this year I have to learn the keyboard, and now you start procrastinating. You don't want to learn the keyboard because procrastination, as you know, is a coping mechanism. Because you don't want to learn the keyboard, now you say, okay, now I think I'm going to run, because you don't want to spend time learning how to play the keyboard. And now you start doing all this other stuff, but you're not satisfied because in your head you purpose to learn the keyboard. Now the goal will be, ideally, start with a keyboard, finish with a keyboard, and it will give you more focus on all these other little tasks that may not be as time consuming. All right, I promised myself that this episode was going to be short. Last time I said that, I ended up having an episode of an hour or more. I'll be stopping here, and I think you found value in this episode. Again, our episode will be airing bi-weekly instead of weekly, as we've done, and then we'll be introducing some French podcast episodes as well. We'll be having more guests this year, and finally there will be a lot more solos episode between Adam and I. And when we have time to be together, we definitely make sure that we record an episode together and keep our conversation as we've always done. If you are still not subscribed to our YouTube channel, it's Unbounded Growth. You can hit the subscribe button and of course turn on your notification bell. We are on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcast, and we are on YouTube Music because Google Podcasts is going away, as you already know. We are also on Stitcher. You can find us there if that's where you listen to us from. Don't forget to hit the follow button. Next week, we'll be having the episode with Dr. Valerie. She's a dentist. She'll tell us a little bit about her journey. So tune in and look forward to that. And also, our website is up and operational, the www.unboundedgrowth.org. Make sure it's the .org. So unboundedgrowth.org, you can find all our episodes there. We found also our blog post there, and also the events that we'll be having this year will also be posted there. Especially one of them, that's the biggest one that we're having this year, is our leadership conference that will be happening somewhere around June or July. We haven't had a fixed date, but it'll be around June or July. As soon as we have a date, we definitely have it on our podcast. Finally, a big shout out again to our sponsor, Judith Muteba. She's actually sponsoring us for this podcast and has been allowing us to keep these episodes coming free of charge to you. As you know, it doesn't cost me much to sit down here and talk, but it definitely costs for all the equipment and everything that goes behind it, and as well as a few things that we've been trying to accomplish with helping those kids going to school. We actually have 4 kids, and we are looking for sponsors and partners. If you want to partner with us just to help, if you feel like, hey, I think I can help with a donation, no number is too small. No number is too small for you, for us, whether it's $10 or $50 a year. It's not even monthly. You can do it a year, whether it's $100 a year, whatever the Lord puts in your heart, or whatever you decide that you want to help us with. And as a gesture of thank you, we send you one of these branded cup. If you can't see it right now, if you're listening to us, there'll be a picture of it, of a branded cup of tea of Unbounded Growth, just as a way to thank you for sponsoring a child with a certain amount. But you can find more details on our website, and I will also link them in the description of this episode. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it was great to be back here. Absolutely very great to be back here. I'd missed being on this table. I'd missed recording. I'd missed as well spending time with y'all. God bless you. You have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week with the episode with Dr. Valerie. And from that time on, we'll be hearing every 2 weeks. If you're not subscribed to our mailing list, make sure you do so that you can stay up to date with everything that's going on at Unbounded Growth. I love you guys, and you have a wonderful week. God bless you.